protests over immigration raids have led to arrests in both Los Angeles and San Francisco. Cars were set on fire, flashbangs and tear gas were used to disperse crowds. Parts of a major freeway were shut down. This morning marks the fourth day of protests. You're seeing some of those self-driving cars on fire. Right now, all of downtown LA has been declared an unlawful assembly area. President Trump called up the National Guard to protect federal personnel and property. It's the first time a president has done this without a state's request or consent in about 60 years.
Are you prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Depends on whether or not there's an insurrection. No, but you have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it. I think that you're going to see some very strong law and order.
500 active duty Marines are also prepared to deploy. The entire National Guard situation is setting up a showdown with California's governor. He claims the president is putting fuel on the fire. The mayor of Los Angeles accused the president of being heavy-handed.
When you raid Home Depot and workplaces, when you tear parents and children apart, and when you run armored caravans through our streets, you cause fear and you cause panic.
For every single minute that we were here resisting against the Border Patrol, that was time that they were not out deporting people in our community.
But President Trump is urging LA's police chief to bring in the troops right now. Police say at least 27 people were arrested Sunday, most of those on the 101 freeway that police shut down. They say protesters threw things onto the road and damaged police cars. Also overnight, a large crowd protested against ICE in San Francisco. About 60 people were arrested there. Joining me now, CNN's senior national security analyst, Juliette Kayyem. Juliette, I want to start with some of the history here because you've pointed out that usually a president can federalize the National Guard, for instance, when a governor requests those resources. When a governor says, look, I'm overwhelmed. I think back to the LA riots, also Hurricane Katrina. Based on what you've observed, is that where we were?
Yes, I mean this is a big distinction of what Donald Trump did. There's a series of cases coming out of desegregation when a governor defied a Supreme Court order and the president federalized the National Guard to get children into the school. So that's a pool of those cases. More recently, instances where a governor has requested additional federal support in the form of federalized National Guard assets or troops. That has always been with the cooperation of the governor and the federal government. So Hurricane Katrina, you exactly noted, and the LA riots in the past, a Republican governor and a Democratic mayor of Los Angeles both requested this from the president, and they were deployed. I want to say something clear, though. Simply because they're deployed doesn't mean it's been successful. I am in this field. The LA riots deployment of federalized National Guard was considered chaotic and not very successful.
Can you get into that more? We have heard this argument that it can, in some cases, actually we've heard from the governor, I think, can inflame or kind of further fuel backlash. What are you seeing?
Yeah, so this is it's hard to determine what the White House is doing right now. The president and his team came on very strong on Saturday, using words like insurrection. I think getting people really hyped up about what was going to be happening. Then there was a delay, and now there's a couple hundred troops that are protecting federal buildings. That's an important mission. It could have been done with state National Guard. You didn't need to put them under the president or Secretary Hegseth. And the reason why you don't do that is because state National Guard work regularly with state police and local police for crowd control, games. The LA is going to be hosting the Olympics. Think of a marathon or a big event. This is happening all the time. So there's training, there's understanding, there's what we call interoperability. The different teams can communicate with each other. When you bring a new entity in, there's no training, there's no cooperation, there's often chaos, and there's a higher probability of friendly fire. This is what happened in the LA riots, is that there was there were 2 instances in which there was almost friendly fire. So we do this to protect, or we don't do this in order to protect the troops and as well as the first responders.
Juliette Kayyem, CNN senior national security analyst, thank you. President Trump has deployed the National Guard to Los Angeles, and that's raised urgent questions about how far the White House will go to enforce its immigration crackdown and how far states can go in resisting. President Trump posted on Truth Social that, quote, order will be restored, the illegals will be expelled, and Los Angeles will be set free. The Trump administration is singling out California Governor Gavin Newsom's response to the protests as its main reason for getting involved.
If he was doing his job, then people wouldn't have gotten hurt the last couple of days. Governor Newsom has proven that he makes bad decisions. The president knows that he makes bad decisions, and that's why the president chose the safety of this community over waiting for Governor Newsom to get some sanity.
And the White House's border czar, Tom Homan, is threatening to arrest anyone getting in the way of immigration enforcement, including Newsom, who says he's ready for a fight.
The fear, the horror, the hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy.
Joining me now in the group chat, CNN politics senior reporter Stephen Collinson, Republican strategist and CNN political commentator Brad Todd, and CNN contributor Lulu Garcia-Navarro. I was talking during the break about whether or not this is still an immigration story, sort of how we're thinking about this moment. Can I kind of open it to you guys?
This is a very perilous moment, because what we're seeing here is a fight that President Trump wants to have.
Meaning with blue states.
With blue states,
yeah.
About immigration, about the rule of law and the way that he views it, and also using the threat of military force in a way that we haven't seen in this country. Federal military force. I mean, there's discussion of deploying Marines for what is a civil disturbance. This should be of concern, I think, to many, many people in this country. And so I think the context is that, yes, this is about immigration enforcement. Los Angeles is a city where 50% almost are Latinos. The people who have been protesting, peacefully protesting, I'm not talking about the violent protesters here. Violence should never be something that's condoned. But the people who have been peacefully protesting, sometimes they're first, second generation Latinos who are worried about this kind of immigration enforcement. Yeah. And so, you know, this is a complicated issue.
And something we heard earlier, I think in a piece of tape, was a protester saying every moment that we're out here, they're not, he said, in our communities doing raids, et cetera. Brad, what are you thinking?
Well, we got to this moment because California has a sanctuary policy. The state law forbids local law enforcement from cooperating with, or local government from cooperating with immigration enforcement. We have immigration laws that govern the entire land, and California is willfully ignoring them. California's left-wing politicians set this up. If California had long been cooperating and helping enforce immigration laws all along the way, this would not be.
It's not the whole state. You do know that some of this is jurisdictions. There are certain towns that do. Yeah, but there are certain towns that absolutely have cooperated with federal authorities.
Shouldn't they all?
You know, this is part of the issue that is always interesting here, is when Republicans want to talk about states' rights, it's about states' rights when it is something that they're interested in, and not when it is something that perhaps Democrats and their states are interested in. And so I think...
But we've all agreed on what immigration laws are.
Well, there's not a state We're going to talk about this more in the hour. I want to bring in Stephen, because there is something you mentioned earlier about militarization. We're going to come back to your point. But having Marines waiting in the wings is pretty wild, because this is not the LA riot so far, not what I remember growing up with. And
Steve,
but hold on one second, Brad. So Stephen brought up this thing saying that the president's not just demonstrating his desire to militarize the crackdown on undocumented migrants, but also implying to use it against protest and dissent. Is that what you see when you look at these images?
I think that's the imagery that the administration is creating. The president tweeted in the middle of the night, or posted on Truth Social or whatever it is now, bring in the troops. He wants us to have that imagery of troops on the streets. I think.
But that's
first
because
of
people
all,
are seeing this imagery, right? I mean, if you look at the cover of the Post today, dozens of thugs arrested as First National Guard troops.
That is,
Gavin Newsom wants it too.
Yeah,
Gavin
I think
Newsom
you're right.
absolutely wants it.
That comment he said that we saw about him, potentially being arrested. He clearly wants this political
peacocking to
fight
try to become
as well. I mean, there's a lot of
national figure.
peacocking going on, but from the administration's point of view, Trump was elected on a mandate of strong border policy. He sees that. He wants to push that as far as he can. He's sending a message to other Democratic states who he believes do not cooperate with the administration.
To their leaders or to people who might try and protest in the streets?
How do you mean exactly?
The message he's sending.
Yeah, but I think to that point I made in the story, and to your point about the Marines, this is a dangerous moment. The idea of American active troops even being talked about on the street. I remember I was in New Orleans after the hurricane. You had the 82nd Airborne there, and they were there on a much different mission, but seeing American active duty troops on a combat patrol walking through the streets of an American city is a chilling image,